and welcome everyone. My name is Pamela Bice, and I am the Associate Dean here at the Center for Animal Law Studies. And we are thrilled that you can join us as we honor and celebrate our 2024-2025 CALS ambassadors. Today, our guests will be sharing their innovative and impactful Global Ambassador Program, or GAP, projects to advance animal protection and animal law around the world. Our Global Ambassador Program empowers and supports our alumni to continue their animal law education and advocacy in the U.S. and abroad through their innovative and individual projects. A little housekeeping, we will reserve time at the end of their presentations today for questions, and my colleague Megan Senatori, who is CALS Associate Director, will moderate that discussion. And you can submit your questions through the Q&A feature on your screen. And with that, I am excited to introduce our first speaker, Kimberly Bachman. And I'll share with you a little bit about Kimberly. Kimberly aligned her professional goals with her values in support of animals after a successful career in animal law, including numerous guardian ad litem appointments. In 2016, she started providing pro bono legal services to animal welfare nonprofits and organizations. In 2019, she became the 6th Congressional District Leader for the Humane Society of the United States. And as a CALS ambassador, she launched Animal Law Alliance, which aims to transform animals' lives by offering pro bono legal services to animal welfare groups, where she serves as executive director. And with that, thank you for joining us, Kimberly, and I will turn it over to you.
Thank you so much. So I want to first start by thanking the Lewis and Clark Law School Center for Animal Law Studies for supporting my project and for giving me this amazing opportunity this whole past year to work on my Global Ambassador project and for providing me with a grant. So we'll get more to that as we progress. So it is not advancing. There it goes. It's not advancing the slides. So just give me 1 second. It went too far, too fast. There we go. Sorry about that. Okay. I live in a state called Illinois, which is in the central part of the United States. In this area, and perhaps nationwide, there is a crisis amongst animal shelters, rescues, and wildlife rehabilitators. Specifically, the combination of inflation, increasing costs, combined with the lack of funding for nonprofits, has caused significant liabilities. Last year, a very large humane society here in the southern part of my state was forced to close after 70 years of providing assistance to animals, and that was due to rising costs. That same year in my area, a wildlife rehabilitator was not able to take any additional animals moving forward due to the fact that they were not incorporated. They did not have tax-exempt status, which means they could not accept tax-free donations, and they basically had insufficient funds to continue moving forward. In the state of Illinois and nationwide here in the US, you have to pay for an attorney, which can cost hundreds of dollars an hour, as well as pay for incorporation fees or even to apply for tax-exempt status. All of these things cost money, and for many of these rehabilitators, rescues, etc., they do not have sufficient funds. So before we go to the next slide, I think it's always important to put a face to why we do what we do. So the first slide, if you saw, was a black dog. His name was Shadow. He was placed in rescue due to the fact that he is a large breed dog, also a black dog. Many of the dogs in rescue and shelters are of that variety, so that's why he was there. So it's important to recognize that. And this screen here is Benny. He was abandoned and living in the back of a van before he was rescued, eating non-food items. So it's a little bit of why we do what we do. So this animal welfare crisis that I've just described gave rise to the idea for my Global Ambassador Project, which is to provide pro bono legal services to animal welfare individuals and groups who provide direct care, housing, and services to companion animals, farmed animals, and wildlife. By providing free legal services, the idea was that animal welfare professionals would receive the legal resources they need to thrive instead of spending hundreds or even thousands of dollars on legal fees. That savings was my hope that they could use that savings to focus their limited financial resources on the direct support of animals. About this time last year, I launched my project, which is Animal Law Alliance. It's a nonprofit organization that provides free legal services. With the generosity of the Global Ambassador Grant, Animal Law Alliance also covers the filing fees for incorporation costs and the application fees to request nonprofit tax-exempt status. In the United States, that tax-exempt status is necessary for an organization to receive tax-deductible donations. Before we advance to the next slide, these two gals that were in rescue, the golden color one was a puppy mill breeder dog. She had been living in that confined situation, perhaps in a crate, for 4 or 5 years. She had internal scarring both in and out of her body due to the numerous litters that she was forced to endure. And the gray, black, white beauty, her name is Chloe. She was actually tied to a tree last winter before she went into rescue. In the area where I live, it's quite cold. No dog should be outside at all. And she was tied to a post with another dog. So in this first year, I've helped several animal welfare groups and individuals. So just to give you kind of an idea of the type of work I've done, one dog rescue is called Mama Zoe's and Puppies Rescue. They did give me permission to give them a shout out in the presentation as a client. So they pull dogs from rescues nationwide. They focus on pregnant, ill, or those dogs that are scheduled to be euthanized. They provide foster homes on a volunteer basis until an adopter is located. This particular group needed assistance with amending articles of incorporation, drafting corporate documents, and also appearing in court to defend against a complaint filed against them by a disgruntled would-be adopter. Animal Law Alliance provided not only the free legal services, but also covered the costs, including the filing fees necessary to participate in that legal action. Another client is a licensed Illinois wildlife rehabilitator. When I first started working with this person, she was out of money and not yet incorporated, which prevented her from receiving tax-exempt donations. And many people won't donate if it's not tax-exempt, so it basically left her without the finances that she needed in order to move forward. Fast forward now, Saffron's Treehouse Wildlife is incorporated as a nonprofit here in the state of Illinois. They have received tax-exempt status from the Internal Revenue Service, and they have several good-sized donors ready to support those efforts. So all of those legal services and more were provided again at no charge to the organization or the individual, with both the legal fees covered as well as the filing fees. Before I move on, that handsome man, his name is Romero. He was put into rescue due to the fact that his human guardians had to go to a nursing home and no one in the immediate family was willing to take him in. So he was put into rescue to find a new home. Okay, as of September 2025, the free legal services and filing fees provided by Animal Law Alliance have supported more than 1,500 animals. Saffron's Treehouse Wildlife, which I just talked about, has provided direct care to 962 wildlife animals, including 506 squirrels, as well as other wildlife, including possums and rabbits. That particular rehabilitator, her goal is to take the animals in, to provide whatever medical care and shelter is needed, and then to release them back into their natural habitat. Those animals are not adopted out those because of being wildlife animals. The 2 dog rescues that receive assistance through Animal Law Alliance have rescued and adopted out already this year more than 400 pets, and a guinea pig rescue that I just incorporated last month has adopted out more than 50 animals. So not too bad for a first year. 1,500 animals is actually more than I had anticipated. So busier than expected, which is all good news. The little girl here at the bottom, she's an old grandma now. Her name is Sydney. She was an owner confiscation due to the fact that she was living in a hoarding situation. She was eating and continues to eat non-food items, and then she was placed into rescue before she was adopted. Okay, so what are the future plans? $1,500 is a good baseline, but we have to continue on. So currently there's one law school student and one paralegal student that are volunteering with Animal Law Alliance. They are reaching out to other animal rescues, shelters, rehabilitators, other animal welfare professionals, just to kind of put the word out there that if you could benefit from free legal services, at least reach out and let's have a conversation. Um, Looking forward to moving as we move forward to increase the number of volunteers that we have, including attorney volunteers would be amazing. Since CALS put out the blogs regarding Animal Law Alliance, I've actually had several attorneys reach out and offer, hey, what can we do to help? Can we provide volunteer services? So happy to have all of them and more come on aboard. Um, I would say that if anyone listening is interested in helping the lives of animals, regardless of what kind of animal, perhaps consider reaching out to volunteer with either Animal Law Alliance or any of the amazing projects that you're going to hear about today. If you are interested in learning more about Animal Law Alliance and the work that we do, you can find me directly at the website. I included there at the bottom. That's animallawalliance.org. And then the final photo here, that's Bessie. She was an owner surrender at the age of 4, so a little bit older. They apparently had a puppy or some other change in their family situation and placed that dog for into rescue as a surrender. So the reason I do what I do, the reason why I went to law school and got an LLM degree and now do this, Animal Law Alliance project is because of these animals that we've showcased here on these slides, as well as the thousands of others that are in my area and perhaps nationwide. So thank you for the opportunity to share my project with the world, and I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kimberly. That was wonderful. And I just love those pictures and the stories, and that really connects the importance of what you're doing and why we're all involved in animal law and protection. So thank you for that. And I am equally thrilled to introduce our next guest and speaker. I'd like to tell you about Linda Mazudzi. Linda is a Zimbabwean lawyer. She is passionate about animal law. She applied to the LLM program at Lewis and Clark Law School with a desire to learn more about animal protection. Currently, as a CALS ambassador, she is working on a policy brief on plastic pollution and animal welfare. And with that, I would like to turn it over to you, Linda.
Thank you very much for that introduction. So, as rightfully introduced, my name is Linda Masudze, and after getting my LLM with Lewis and Clark, it's something which really opened my eyes in terms of understanding how animals are important in terms of our living dynamic, especially here in Africa, where it's not really much of a discussion. But thanks to, some of the advocacy that has been done by Lewis and Clark, we are having a lot of these discussions now being had in different countries in Africa. And Zimbabwe is not excluded from that discussion. That's why I'm here today. So a little bit of my background, I work at the Environmental Management Agency in Zimbabwe, which I'm sure maybe in the US you have an equivalent of that. And when throughout my journey with the agency, I discovered that when you are into environment, you focus mostly on issues that affect the environment. And plastics actually has been one of the discussions that we have been having, leading to the president even declaring a national cleanup day on the last Friday of every month. And one of the most outputs of these cleanup campaigns, you will find that there's a lot of plastic waste which is there. And it suddenly just came to my mind that if we are talking about plastics, are we having a conversation as a nation about the effects of those plastics to animals? And I went to a colleague and I gave them this idea that I want to be a part of the global ambassador for Lewis and Clark. Tell me more about how plastics are affecting animals. And fortunately, this colleague is actually is in solid waste management. And that's when the statistics came out. And I was really intrigued as an animal lawyer. So I then joined with my colleague Nancy, who is not here, and we started engaging in this project, which focuses on bridging the gap between plastic waste and animal welfare in Zimbabwe. And we had an official launch, which was done at one of the hotels in Harare, where we brought out stakeholders from the retail, from the manufacturing industry, policymakers, and environmental scientists, including community leaders as well, and members of the civil society, because we believe that for you to actually have positive action going on, you cannot leave the community leaders behind, because these are the people that exist with the animals, whether domestic or wildlife. And one of the key outputs from that inception workshop, and even as part of this project, is I want to produce a policy brief, which will then bring out the action items that Zimbabwe needs to address when it comes to plastic waste and animal welfare in Zimbabwe. Okay, so that is a picture there of me and my colleagues at the launch of our roundtable meeting where we started out our project. And three out of those, the first three members that you see, they're also alumni from Lewis and Clark. And the tall gentleman there, he's actually a policymaker and he's part of the parliament. And we were so happy to have him because that's who we want to target in terms of ensuring that our policy brief is sustained even after this project ends. And I'm happy that he participated and came about. So during the time when we were developing the policy brief regarding this project, we had a very rare moment, an opportunity where Zimbabwe had the privilege of hosting the Ramsar Convention in July. And I think luck was on our side because I felt that this was a very opportune moment to discuss how wetlands, being a water source, since it's a water source, I believe it's also a home to different types of ecosystems, including animals. And in Zimbabwe, we have lots and lots of ecosystems. So I felt that why not expand this project to take advantage of this convention, which comes once in a blue moon, and have time to discuss further and engage with stakeholders regarding how water bodies which are part of the Ramsar sites in Zimbabwe, which are also a home to animals, are being affected by plastics. And we successfully held a side event, and the feedback was amazing, with so many people coming to us after the side event, looking for the statistics, because in Zimbabwe, more than 5,000 animals are being affected by plastic pollution, but it's just not being discussed enough. And when they were hearing such information, the stakeholders were very much interested. And they were now giving us pressure to say the moment that policy brief comes out, we really want to see what's happening. And we even had farmers coming to us and say, I've had incidences where I see my livestock, my cattle have mysteriously died, but it has never occurred to me that it could be plastic pollution. So this was quite fruitful, and we're happy with the engagement and the connections that we had towards achieving plastics. So that's a picture of me there. I twist my topic a little bit so that it becomes relevant to the convention as well. And it was wetlands, animals, and plastics. And that's my audience who were actively listening to the presentation. Moving along, after we did the presentation with Ramza and even the local inception that we did, I felt now that I have talked to the stakeholders, your professionals, the people that matter when it comes to developing the policy brief, the people that have ideas. I felt like if I complete this project without reaching out to the communities who are the custodians of the environment, who are the custodians of the very animals, whether wildlife or domestic, if we do not reach out to them, then we will not have made a full impact in terms of this project. And we did an awareness program in one of the largest lakes surrounding Harare, which is the capital city of Zimbabwe. So outside the outskirts in Harare, there is a lake which was um, built up around 1952. And it is one of the biggest water sources. You will find your fish there, you'll find your marine animals there, and you will find even livestock like your cows, sheep, goats grazing around the area and even drinking water from that area. And in the same area, we have a conflict where you will find urbanization becoming a threat to that ecosystems and to animals, because when we were now doing the cleanup, we called the communities. We had the environmental clubs from school coming up. We also had support from the Parks and Wildlife Authority, with support from BirdLife Zimbabwe and the African Youth and Climate Change. And when we were picking up litter, the threat that urbanization brought came in the fact that most of the litter that we picked there were plastic fish, the plastic fishing nets, where you find that most of the fishers around the area would go and fish, and then they will try to sell the fish to the urban market in the nearest capital, which is Harare. And then you find your bottles and your plastic where people come for your recreational activities, and they leave the plastic there. And then you find your diapers, which actually is now becoming a priority waste in Zimbabwe, because there were a lot of diapers around the area. So it became an opportunity for us to engage the community in terms of that. So in this picture, you'll find that we hired a car, and in this truck that you're seeing to your left, most of the green stuff that you're seeing there, those are the fishing nets. And the majority, it's just weeds tied up in plastic and things like that. We actually ended up having an issue where most of the bin liners that we carried were not enough. And we had to separate ourselves to say, can this group go on that side? Can this group go on that side? And it was a long, fruitful morning. It is an activity that we prefer to do in the morning because this time around in Zimbabwe, it's very hot. It's your summer. And those are some of the litter that we came across. And that's me there holding a plastic bottle, bringing out the evidence that we're having. As you can see in the background, it's a very beautiful lake area, and if we don't protect it, we'll be in trouble. And then we're having the young stewards sitting there, and we are just giving them a brief of why it's important to protect an ecosystem like this lake, which is a home to their animals, which is a home to the marine animals, and which is also a source of supply of water for them as well in their parents at home. And having concluded, oh, sorry, I skipped the slide. Okay, so having concluded this program and all the community engagements that we made, I really felt like yes, I have completed what I wanted to achieve in the GAP project, but I feel like the real work is really has started to come out, because we were having rare conversations with the Parks and Wildlife Management Authority. And me coming from a different parastatal or from a different institution, we had time to discuss, to say, from your end, what can you bring to ensure that this community engagement keeps going on? And their interest was also to the effect to say, Linda, you know a bit about animal law and environmental protection. Can you bring that expertise to help us understand how we can protect this lake? And if you're going to develop a policy brief, we need your expertise again as a lawyer to say, how do we push this policy brief to be understood by the policymakers? And during the season that we are in Zimbabwe, we are actually amending the Parks and Wildlife Bill. We are amending the Environmental Management Bill. So I feel it's again an opportunity to start discussing how animals can be protected during this bill stage before we have the final legislation. So in conclusion, The final step will include developing the policy brief as discussed, dissemination of the policy brief to the policy and lawmakers, industry players. And when we had our first inception meeting in Harare, the industry players were letting us know that, you know what, we were not aware. And there were even concerns to say, okay, fine, Linda, if we remove plastics from the environment, what are the alternatives? So there's still a lot of work to be done to convince the industry players on how they can actually coexist with animals without actually damaging or hurting their environment. And the community engagements will have to go on. So I want to lastly thank Lewis and Clark for believing in this project. I want to thank the funders and everyone who made this project possible, because without your support, we would not have done what we achieved in these pictures. Thank you so much.
Linda, thank you so much. That was really informative, and thanks for all you're doing. It's so innovative and timely and necessary, and look forward to hearing more about the bill's amendment that you talked about, as well as the policy brief. You had mentioned some action items we can all learn about and learn from you on. So thank you so much for your time and all of your excellent work. And with that, I will move on to our next co-speakers. They're going to be making a presentation together, and I would like to share with you a bit about them. I will start with Varnika Singh, and let me tell you a bit about Varnika. She is a practicing advocate with 15 years of legal experience and is head of legal at the Federation of Indian Animal Protection Organizations. She holds LLM degrees in animal law from Lewis and Clark Law School and the National Law University. Her expertise spans in animal law, IPR, human rights, and consumer protection, with notable litigation on street dog welfare, illegal dog fighting, jallikattu, circus animal bans, and sexual crimes against animals. She will be co-presenting with Julie Pillay, and Julie is retired from the National Science Foundation as she retired in 2016, and she began her encore career in animal welfare. She was among the first cohort of students to complete the Masters of Studies in Animal Law right here at the Center for Animal Law Studies, and she graduated with honors. Julie's interests are wide-ranging and include the welfare of free-roaming dogs, crimes against animals, human-animal conflict, the welfare of working animals, and the current and future issues related to animal agriculture in Nepal. And with that, please welcome Varnika and Julie. I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Pam. And I'm going to start. And before I begin, I just wanted to say that Varnika and I would like to thank the Center for Animal Law Studies and the supporters of our GAP project and the donors who made it possible. So thank you for attending today and for your interest in our project. I'll begin the presentation, and then Varnika will take over and wrap up, and then I'll come back in at the end. Our project is about bringing animal law to Nepalese law schools where it doesn't currently exist. Next slide. So our talk will first provide a little background about how we prepared for the activities that we envisioned as part of our project. Then we'll describe some of our goals and accomplishments and discuss our ongoing work and our plans for the future. And these pictures just show the Save Nepal logo, some of the first students that we worked with in animal law. And on the right side, this is the logo for our new website, which I'll mention at the end. Okay, next. So Varnika and I met virtually when we were students in the CALS Animal Law LLM MSL program. And as Pam said, Varnika is a lawyer and the head legal consultant for FIAPO, which is the Federation of Indian Animal Protection Organizations. And she has she has broad interests in animal protection. And I am almost 10 years into what I call my encore career. And I spent over 25 years working for the federal government. And after visiting Nepal for the first time to go trekking, I became very interested in the animal welfare in Nepal, which is part of what led me to want to study animal law as a non-lawyer because I thought it would help with my advocacy. Next slide. So after my first trip to Nepal, I became aware of a variety of issues that relate to animal welfare. And in addition to free roaming dogs and abandoned cows, there are many examples of human wildlife conflict, illegal poaching, retaliatory killings near national parks. In addition, both farm animals and working animals have virtually no laws protecting them. And recently, I've also seen on social media many examples of problems that are associated with the transport of animals raised for food. And the laws are almost non-existent. And when there are laws or directives, they are rarely enforced. So as part of one of the courses that we all take in the program called Emerging Topics, and when I took it, it was taught by Professor Russ Mead. Our final project was to create a website for advocacy. And so I decided to investigate the animal law landscape in Nepal, and I discovered that animal law wasn't taught as a separate topic in law schools, and that few, if any, lawyers associated themselves with the field of animal law. And the website that I created was called Save Nepal, and it's still active. You can find it online. The website is pictured there. And the goal of Save Nepal is to improve protections for animals and the environment by helping to train the next generation of Nepalese lawyers in the field of animal law. And that's what we decided to do as part of our GAP project. Next slide. So in January of 2024, shortly after Varnika and I had finished our coursework, and I already had plans to be visiting Nepal, I invited Varnika to come over from India for about a week, where we met in person for the first time. And we decided to meet with some lawyers that I contacted by email and made some appointments to visit law schools. And Varnika gave some talks, and we met with some of the faculty and administrators. And over the next several months, we decided to develop a collaborative working relationship so that we could propose to launch our global ambassador program. It turned out to be quite difficult to communicate by email, just maybe culturally or because people are so busy. Very often we wouldn't get responses, but we kept trying. And it over the summer, we submitted the proposal to continue our work in Nepal. And as it turned out, I was able to meet with some students, and we decided to work together. Next slide. So in addition to promoting the idea of bringing animal law to the law schools in Nepal using the Save Nepal website, we did a few media interviews to discuss our plans, and we explained the basics of animal law and talked about some of our ideas for working with students and faculty to introduce animal law into the curriculum. In addition to proposing to work with students to do their own research projects, we also attempted an animal law essay competition at one of the law schools once we started our GAP project, but that didn't really work very well, mainly because we were trying to work at such a distance and people were busy with their regular work and weren't always able to communicate and respond to the messages we sent. And so that was a bit of a challenge that we faced. in addition to doing the interview with Locator, which was some friends of mine who were law students who were trying to explain on social media what animal law was, I also was put in touch with the general manager of Annapurna Media Network, that publishes the Annapurna Post. So I thought any outreach I could do would be helpful. Next slide. So one of the most successful aspects of our GAP project was to engage with the Kathmandu University School of Law. And when our GAP year started last November, Varnika came over and we were able to go meet with some of the faculty at the Kathmandu University School of Law. And Varnika also visited the law school at Lumbini Buddhist University to meet with students and faculty, and she gave a talk there as well, and she'll be talking about that in a minute. One of the professors that we met when we visited Kathmandu University School of Law was somebody who I had met previously, and we discussed the idea of working together. And he asked his students if any of them had projects that might relate to animal law, because he was teaching a research methods course, and we thought that perhaps the students in his class could become some of the students that we would work with. And as part of our GAP proposal, we had proposed to work with students to guide them through a research project. And that turned out to work, and 4 of the students did express interest in working with us. And the diversity of the topics they chose was amazing, I thought, because they were exactly some of the things I would have asked them to work on had I been assigning topics to them. One student on her own chose to work on street dogs. One wanted to work on working animals. One was wanted to research wildlife poaching because she came from an area that was adjacent to the national parks. And the last student was very interested in animal sacrifice. So I was able to meet with the students just before I left to come back to the US in late November. And over the winter, the fall and winter, we worked together by email. And we also had a WhatsApp group that Varnika created. Each student then wrote a short research proposal, and they did primary research uh, to interview people that were related to their topics. And they also did a literature review and finally wrote a research paper. We also organized in the spring, when I went back to Nepal in March and April, the first ever animal law seminar. And I recorded the talks, and they're available on the Save Nepal YouTube channel. The students have also written short newspaper articles, and these will hopefully be published soon. I'm having a little difficulty finding the right newspaper, but today I had a response from someone that will hopefully lead to the publication of these short newspaper articles that the students have written. So now Varnika is going to talk about her activities visiting law schools and giving talks about animal law and engaging with law students and faculty. And then I'll come back toward the end and wrap up.
Thank you, Julie, for explaining the project so well. So I will so after what Julie has explained, I will be talking about the 3 talks that we gave in the Nepal law colleges. We met with the administrations of the Tribhuvan University, which is in Kathmandu. Tribhuvan University has 2 law schools, one is public and private, and we got the opportunity to give a talk on animal laws in both these colleges, and meet the dean of the colleges and discuss the prospects of introducing animal law syllabus in these 2 law colleges. Yeah, next slide, please. So this is the Nepal Law Campus, which is a public law school affiliated with Tribhuvan University. Um, in our PPT, uh, as Nepal is culturally quite similar to India, so in the talk, what I tried to speak is that gave a highlight of animal laws that are in India, because it will be easier for the Nepali students to connect with because the issues are same, the culture is same, tradition is same, like the issues of street dogs in India and Nepal are similar, or the not just street dogs, the street animals, or the cruelty aspect. However, the difference is that in India, we have a specific law to deal with. Nepal do not. Nepal has a code, their national code or criminal code, where they have few sections on animal cruelty. So in this talk, it was really even we were shocked, and it was even new for these students that there is such thing called animal laws, and what type of cruelties can be seen, which looks really normal, like kicking a dog or beating a street dog really looks normal. But however, knowing that beating or kicking a dog could also be an offense, uh, was was kind of a new thing for Nepali students to know. And during these talks, not only about the Indian laws, but we also gave a highlight of the um, internationally what was going on in the world, like we discussed the Sicilia judgment or the Estrella judgment of Ecuador, so that they know is that what is the scope of animal law, that the scope of animal law has is really big, and it is not confined to one region or nationality now. However, despite that, um, still there are countries like Nepal or India where the enforcement is not happening, or there is not a dedicated law. And how the change will come, that change will come if there could be an introduction of animal law in the law colleges. And Julie, during this talk, she also highlighted the global significance and evolving scope of animal legal protections. So in the next slide, these are the pictures from the other college, which is the National Law College, which is the private law school. It was the same talk as in the other college, but what was what intrigued us, I think, the kind of questions that came from the students, some like there were repeated questions on street dog issues and animal sacrifice. Because animal sacrifice is a big thing in Nepal, and it happens at a large scale. So students were really concerned about it, and there were questions like, is there any law on animal sacrifice? How can it be stopped? And even in the PPT, I try as as the Cecilia and Australia judgments were given, there was a question on what is the difference between animal welfare and animal rights. So in a country where there is no animal law as of now, um, coming such questions was, we saw it as a really positive step, and these talks were quite successful. Yeah, next slide, please. So this is the third talk, which took place in the Law College of Lumbini Buddhist University. Here I gave the introduction to animal laws, not only in India, but what is the animal laws in Nepal. And this being Lumbini Buddhist University being a Buddhist university and birthplace of Gautam Buddha, I also try to incorporate the Buddhism principles, and that says refraining from harming any living being. And again, in this talk, the questions of animal sacrifice was the one that was coming up. Other than this, um, in our talks, as our goal is the introduction of these labors, animal law labors. In the end, we also told students that, you know, what could be their future. Like there were link given where they can do internship in animal laws, whether in FIAPO, which is my organization, or ALDF online internship, or how they can enroll for CALS LLM program. uh, so like we try to give them the bigger picture that um, animal laws could not only be like a pro bono thing, but uh, maybe in the future it could also become a career path. There are a lot of research opportunities in it. So that was the objective of these talks. So yes, and now next to Julie.
Okay, so just to wrap up, we have 2 more slides. Our work will continue even after our gap year ends. We have a new website that has just started. I just started it a few days ago and it's under construction. I wanted to make it available. We had the funds in the budget to go for 3 years, so it's going to be up and running for at least the next 3 years. It's called Animal Law for All, or ALPHA. And the intention is to be a central clearinghouse of information about animal law courses all over the world. And the 2 courses that Varnika and I are developing will be situated on this website. The work on the courses hasn't progressed as much as we might have liked, but we ended up doing a lot of other things that have taken up a lot of time, which set us back in the progress on our courses. The courses we are developing will be specifically targeted at students in Nepal and India, but will be freely available to anyone and will be useful for developing a basic understanding of animal law from the perspective of someone in the global south and in countries where animal law as a specialty doesn't yet exist. We also have 2 new students who are set to start working on new research projects, and we're just starting to work with them now, and they're pictured below. And I met them last year when I was in Nepal in the spring. Next slide, the final slide. So in summary, we've exposed students and faculty in Nepal to the field of animal law. We have shared our work internationally on social media and in conferences. I attended the UK Animal Law Conference in June, and we have worked on one-on-one with law students in Nepal and encouraged them to publish their research. We have one student especially who has a very nice article on animal sacrifice, and we're hoping to find a law journal where he can publish his article. We hosted the first ever animal law seminars at law schools in Nepal, and we continue to encourage students and faculty to explore the LLM programs that are becoming widely available, both in person and online. Finally, animal law, there may be opportunities for interested animal lawyers to teach courses in animal law as a way to bridge the gap and give people opportunities to learn about animal law. And if you're a lawyer and you're interested in perhaps going to Nepal, I'm sure that there would be a way for you to be a visiting faculty member and you would be heartily welcomed by the law schools in Nepal. That was one of the issues, was looking for people who could teach animal law courses. So the courses we're developing will be self-paced and asynchronous courses that students can do by themselves. But in order to have a real animal law course in person, it would be great to find some lawyers who want to take a trip to Nepal and who might be willing to stay for a month or 2 and do a short 5-week or 6-week seminar course on animal law. So with that, I'll end. And thank you all for your attention.
Thank you so much, Varnika and Julie. That was so impressive, and I really enjoyed learning more about your animal law education outreach. That is, of course, something that is near and dear to all of our hearts here at the Center for Animal Law Studies. I think what you're doing with your engagement and your empowering of faculty and administrations and students is so powerful. And the ripple effect of engaging with new and newly inspired animal advocates who will also go on to do the work is just the perfect model and something that other global ambassadors will be inspired to replicate. So thank you both for your presentation and for all of your work. And with that, I am pleased to turn it over to our Associate Director, Megan Senatori, who is going to facilitate the Q&A session and wrap it up for us today. And if I don't see you all again, thank you for joining us today. And we appreciate all the work that you are doing. Megan, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Pam. Before we turn over to Q&A, and a brief note for you for that, the Q&A is open. You can put your questions in there, and we've reserved time at the end. We do have one further global ambassador, and unfortunately, she's sick today, so she wasn't able to join us. So I am going to provide a summary of her presentation and hopefully do it some justice, though not as well as she would have done it herself. And I'm going to try to get all of my Polish pronunciations correct in a way that my Polish grandparents would be proud. So our final global ambassador is Iga Glazewska. See, I've already failed. Iga Glazewska-Bromant, and she's an animal lawyer and policy expert committed to advancing interspecies and social justice. As country director for Humane World for Animals in Poland, she leads various programs aimed at strengthening animal protection through systemic change. Iga received her animal law LLM through our online advanced degree program in 2022. So what Iga has done with her project, is to focus on expanding animal law and animal protection in Poland. Now, there is existing work going on in Poland. Tomasz Pietrzakowski is a well-known Polish scholar in both animal law and constitutional law, who has also been a CALS visiting scholar. So he is doing that kind of work, as are other scholars and advocates. But what Iga's goal was to introduce more emerging topics in animal law into the Polish debate. And the genesis for her idea was, as you've heard from others who have presented, our emerging topics in animal law course. When Iga was in the program, that course was taught by Dr. Raj Reddy, and that inspired her to engage in this work that eventually became part of her GAP project. So why her work matters is because the current debate in Poland, in her view, remains limited to some main areas, but it is not incorporating other areas that she would like to explore, such as rewilding, One Health, multi-species justice. Those topics are still marginalized, and she wanted to bring them into the conversation and offer broader legal and practical tools. So what she has done is to create accessible articles in Polish that cover selected emerging topics, such as multi-species justice and exotic pets. She has also, as you've heard from other of our ambassadors, created a syllabus for use in law schools and for interdisciplinary programs. She is doing work that tries to frame animal rights more as a social justice issue, focusing on structural inequities, interconnected oppressions, and collective responsibility. She has also focused specifically on exotic pets and the animal welfare issues that abound on that issue, addressing fragmented and inconsistent law in Poland, coupled by poor enforcement and ethical concerns. The expected outcomes for Iga's program include greater presence of animal law throughout Polish law curricula. She's developing new research pathways and cross-sector partnerships, better, more comprehensive tools for animal protection, focusing on law, policy, and education. And she's expanding her project with new themes to build a more comprehensive and interdisciplinary portfolio. All of our ambassadors, in addition to this webinar, They featured their work in pieces that they wrote for us that we shared across our website and social media. And so that you can see Iga's project in more detail, as she would describe it, I've put that into the chat and you can read more about her work there. So with that, we are going to transition to our questions and answers, and I'd like to invite all of our wonderful CALS ambassadors to come back on to the camera. And we're going to open it up for the Q&A. One moment, please. So first of all of you talked about doing work in your communities. Really, these are at their core community-based projects. What did you find was the best way to make an impact in your respective communities? Do you have any recommendations or tips for people who are listening, who are interested in making the kind of impact that you have through these projects? And whomever wants to go, you can unmute yourself and we can just take turns.
I can go first. So,
Kimberly.
I think that, for me personally, what's important to think about is maybe thinking outside the box. Don't restrict yourself to just, applying for a position at a well-established nonprofit. There's nothing wrong with that at all. But if you're looking to make perhaps a more significant impact in your community, maybe just thinking outside the box, what kind of need is there? Like Julie and they talked about looking outside and seeing that there's dogs in the streets, right? So that spawns the idea. For myself, it was looking at nonprofits that are closing, humane societies closing, rehabbers having to shut down. So maybe just looking around you and seeing where the immediate need is and building from there.
That's wonderful advice, Kimberly. And for those who are watching and may not be familiar with the work of our alumni, they really have a trailblazing spirit. We have a lot of alums who have started their own nonprofits like Kimberly has. We have nonprofits that are brand new around the world doing work in Zimbabwe and Chile and Pakistan, and can't even give you a complete list. But our alumni are doing work across 33 countries, and many of them have started their own nonprofits, which was Kimberly's model. So very, very impactful work, Kimberly. Did anyone else want to weigh in on that question?
Yeah.
Thank you,
I
Linda.
think,
Please do.
yeah. So from my end, it was more of decentralizing the project, remove it from it being a Linda project, but into something that I can have different stakeholders have a personal feeling to it. Because I think if you're talking about animals and the environment and trying to find a balance, it's quite hard to just start with saying no to plastics. You can't use plastics. You get resistance from that standpoint. But if you bring them in gently and you let them understand that, look, this is how it's affecting your daily lives to begin with, and this is how it's affecting the animals that you're existing with. And there are people that benefit from animals, like your milk, even companionship. We have, the school kids were giving us examples of how they are attached to their puppies, etc. So then when you raise the plastic bottle and say, do you know this is affecting that little puppy that you so love, then, their face beams up and they start to understand. So for me, it was decentralizing the project, thinking of how do I make this person that I want to target as a stakeholder have a personal attachment to what I'm doing.
That's such wonderful advice, Linda. And I know for, a long time in this field of animal law, there was a focus on making arguments that were really just only about the animals, and all of us that do this work, we very much believe it matters because the animals matter. But as human beings, we, are interested in our own self-interest. So connecting with people so that they can see how this impacts their lives and why helping the animals help them on whatever that issue is such a smart approach, Linda, and I commend you for doing that. Very, very well done. Any others? Did anyone else want to answer that question? And if not, I can go to another one. Okay. This question is for Julie and Varnika. The person is wondering whether you think the project could have been undertaken Varnica, if you didn't have a JD and an LLM, so what's really unique about your partnership is we have an MSL student and an LLM student who have combined to do your project. And also adding to your success is the fact that, Julie, you have a PhD. So do you think those degrees helped you have credibility, do the work? How did they impact your ability to go out and get animal law sort of under discussion in Nepal?
I'll just say one thing and then I'd like Varnica to comment, but the other part of the question I think is about the cultural connection.
I was going to ask that next.
Yeah,
Yes.
one
Yes,
of one
thank
of
you.
the main reasons that it was such a great partnership was that I don't think either of us could have done the project alone. I mean, I didn't have the JD as a as a lawyer. I just was a advocate and had the MSL background, and Varnica also has the cultural connection. So we really, I had the idea and started the project, but I definitely couldn't have done it without Varnica's help. So maybe she can also comment.
Yes, please do, Veronica. Thank you.
I think the our degrees do help because I from a legal background and giving talks uh to the law campuses and knowing the law, that was advantageous. But I think knowing the ground reality, which only Juni knew about the Nepal because she has been living there for long, and she made the connections. And other than having a law degree, I think uh, to take the lead and the communication skills, and to um, knowledge and skills, both the things are needed, and they are what mixed up in our project, and that's how we can do it. And of course, the cultural and traditional thing is there, because just not only culture tradition, the I can also understand the language of Nepal. That is something easier for me, and I think Julie was is struggling little bit at that part, and it was little difficult. So yes, but having having somebody there physically, which Julie was, and then together with her, I think that's what made the project.
Yeah, I'll
Excellent.
just clarify. I visit a couple of times every year. I've been 9 times since 2019, and I usually stay anywhere from 1 to 2 months, but mostly I'm back in the US. So it's hard, especially now with the things that are going on. I wasn't able to go this fall, so I'm planning to go back right after the new elections in the spring.
Wonderful. I'm looking here. I want to add into the chat for those who are interested. Really, the global nature of our program is what is one of the most important things to the success of the type of work that our alumni are doing, because you are going out back into your communities, expanding animal law there, expanding animal protections there, and you do have the knowledge and the connections and the cultural competencies. So I wanted to add in our map of where our global alums are. And that map has a pin that will take you to different countries. And you can see the representation of our alumni across the world, across all 6 continents. So I wanted to ask the next question is that it seems in many of the states and countries in which some of you are working or have been experienced, they are currently experiencing some measure of political instability, as Julie, you noted, related to your travels. So on that note, the person is wondering if you could speak to how you see the recent or current state of political affairs hampering or even helping efforts to advance the protection of and interests of animals. And I don't know who would like to take that one first. Anyone want to speak to that?
I
So
could,
you want?
yeah, I
Yeah.
could
Yeah,
start.
thank you.
I actually am just constantly thinking about these things. And as a matter of fact, I currently have a draft letter that I want to send to the acting or the interim prime minister of Nepal. And I have a law student and a veterinary student who are going to be the main submitters of this letter, but our idea is to take an opportunity to try and at least get a word in with the new ambassador or the acting ambassador to say, you know, this might be a good opportunity, this might be a good time when things are being examined top to bottom to incorporate a review of the entire animal protection laws in Nepal, as well as how even the Constitution works. I was recently preparing a talk for the ABA, and I learned that there are some significant issues with the way the Constitution is written. And I know that's a huge challenge, but there are some things that I think could be done to help improve the way laws are enforced in Nepal, and also just revising them.
Wonderful, Julie. Did others want to add thoughts to that question?
Yeah, Raj's question also mentions something for Kimberly, and I actually, that came to my mind because she's in Illinois, where things are kind of in a little bit of upheaval in Chicago. So I think it would be nice to hear what you have to say about Chicago.
It's probably best that I don't talk too much about Chicago since many of you are coming to Chicago in the days ahead. So, but I can appreciate that the instability in politics in the United States is also comes in the form of reduced funding, right, for nonprofits. So a lot of, in my area at least, the well-established humane society that I talk about that was in effect here for 70 years, it's a really long time, just couldn't get any funding because that's dried up. And again, that's just part of the whole political culture in the United States, and that we're focusing on other things perhaps, and not so much not only just animal welfare, but all just nonprofits in general. So
Yes,
but
nonprofit.
you all come to Chicago and have a good time.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I want to just add to that, because of so many people losing their jobs and the economy just having problems, you know, shelters are over capacity. They already were over capacity. And this, what's going on, you know, the political instability is increasing the harms that animals are experiencing.
Yes.
Certainly. We have one person, and I'm just going to put information in the chat, who is interested in our advanced degree program and finding out more information about it, such as tuition costs, scholarships, and such. I have put into the chat a recent webinar that we hosted within the last week or so that provides a very comprehensive overview of the advanced degree program, application details, timelines, as well as includes a presentation by Professor Pamela Frosch. And so you can use that as a reference regarding the program. This one is a general question. I'm going to probably do one or two more here, and then we'll start to wrap up. The question is how those of us who are working towards their MSL degrees in animal law can be of service to nonprofits. Those of you who are working with nonprofits, or you specifically who have started one, Kimberly, and help them work on behalf of animals. So what can MSLs contribute?
I can speak for Animal Law Alliance that we welcome anyone with any background of any kind. So if you are the person who posed the question, or any others that are listening, anybody who wants to volunteer, I will absolutely make a space for you. I didn't realize there was this much interest, but the amount of people that have reached out, both potential clients and people wanting to volunteer, shows me that we're on the tip of an iceberg here, with lots more work to be done. So please, regardless of whatever your background is, educational wise, professional wise, it doesn't matter. Please reach out to myself or any of the other panelists, all great nonprofits and projects to work on.
Wonderful. Did anyone else want to add to that? And I should add, for those of you who are watching and don't know what we're referring to, in animal law MS, we have two advanced degrees. One is an advanced degree for lawyers, and that is the LLM degree. The MSL degree is for non-lawyers, so someone who has their bachelor's degree, someone like Julie, who then go on and they want to they want to pursue animal law, but not as lawyers and not, practicing law, but have a deep knowledge of animal law so that they can also improve the lives of animals. So that's the MSL degree. So I have one more question before we wrap up, and I'll direct this to everyone. Through our Global Ambassador Project, we hope that we are, giving you the ability to plant seeds through these wonderful programs that you've created, and that they really blossom into something that you continue to pursue in the future and that continue to make an impact for animals. So as we kind of depart today, what are your wishes for the future of your project and the impacts that you hope it has for animals? And whoever would like to answer that one.
Yeah, I think I can go. So first of all, I really want to thank CALS for choosing us for this program, and I just hope that what Julie and I are trying to do, we get success in that, and we are able to introduce animal laws in Nepal. But other than that, in the future, not only Nepal, this also gave me an idea that I can also introduce few more law courses in animal law courses in India also. They are already that are going on, but through this, I also, got in touch with law colleges in India, like Delhi University, and I am now in talk with them if there are any chance they can introduce animal law. So like through the project, I am also taking it towards India if something more can happen. So I see future in both Nepal and India to have for law students to know about animal laws, which are like almost negligible. Law students are not aware of it, and so that in future they can take it as a career option and at least know that such a law is there in existence. So yeah.
I'll
Wonderful.
just
Thank you.
I'll
Go ahead,
just
Julie.
I'll just follow on to say that for our project, it would be nice to have, we could envision virtual lectures. We could have a series of lectures, and it wouldn't be a burden to any one person, but we could do a Zoom or a Google meeting where students could log in and learn about a specific topic, and we could have a series of talks throughout the year. Or if somebody wanted to come and, actually in person visit the country and then stay and spend a month, teaching courses. That was one of the things that was a stumbling block for the universities that we visited, was that they didn't have anyone who could teach the courses, nor did they have the funding to do that. But, I could imagine a retired lawyer wanting to come and, visit a foreign country, go trekking, do some sightseeing, do a safari, and then spend a month, living. The costs are very inexpensive to stay there. So that's what I think would be a nice future outcome.
Yes. But I think so many of us that came into this profession started by doing pro bono work to help that blossoms into teaching and other things and establishing new programs. So Linda or Kimberly, would you like to share your future wishes for your project?
Yeah, I think on my end, I am just on the edge over a lot of things because my project, I feel like it's a bit current to what is happening maybe in the local political sphere in terms of maybe the bills which I mentioned. And also globally, we are talking about the Plastics Convention, which has set over and over again without a conclusion. And my wish is after we have, because we've already done the first draft of the policy brief, I shared it with the university in Zimbabwe to have a look at it. And once we have something which is final, which should be by end of this month, we are hoping that if we could get like an expert that can maybe advise in terms of how will this policy brief stand in terms of the international sphere? How does it become relevant in terms of informing the international politics and outcome, so that when we bring it down locally, for instance, if we have the plastic convention being actually passed in Zimbabwe, we are eager to also adopt it. It will mean a lot of breakthrough for the animals as well. And then that's when we start the fight with the retail and the industry. So there's still a lot of work that needs to be done.
Certainly, starting with the community and then building out from there is a wonderful next step. And Kimberly, in your response, can you we have a comment, someone would like to know how to reach out to your nonprofit if they're
Yep.
interested in
Certainly.
volunteering. So could you share that as well?
Yeah, so thank you for asking. So the website is animallawalliance.org, and there's a chat box there. You can reach out. It'll come directly to me. So happy to have people reach out. And with about 1,500 animals is what we were able to assist this first year out. I'm looking to, when can I hit 10,000 animals, right? And maybe in my lifetime, maybe 100,000 total for the, if it's a 10-year program or something. So I would love to have going forward additional volunteer attorneys, because eventually I see a time with this much outreach coming back towards me. I won't be able to handle this by myself. So perhaps other volunteer attorneys are going to put in a few hours a week or a month. But the sky's the limit. I'm super excited and very grateful for the grant and the support of the program.
Wonderful. And with that, our time together has ended. Thank you all. It is so impressive what you're doing. And in particular, the photos you shared just really brought this work to life. Our Global Ambassador program is available to our animal law alumni at the Center for Animal Law Studies. That includes our JD alumni, our LLM alumni, and our MSL alumni. The application period has just closed for our 5th round of the GAP, and we will soon be announcing who the next global ambassadors are for the Center for Animal Law Studies. So thank you everyone for joining us. We appreciate your time, and congratulations to all of you for your wonderful work.